peoples, and welcome back to my channel. If you follow me on Instagram, then you probably know I have been sick for a little while now, which is why I sound sort of funny and congested. But I couldn't let that stop me from filming and saying hi to you all again. Today, we're going to be doing stuff. I have not published anything yet, and I was recently asked about this on Instagram stories. How did I learn everything? You know, what was my beginning in writing? And the answer is slightly embarrassing, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Fan fiction. I feel like it is a wonderful way to practice. It is actually probably one of the best ways to practice writing because I had a reason. It teaches you almost how to keep your characters consistent. Let's picture someone working in a writer's room. They're probably just writing characters that were created by someone else working this show. Now let's picture someone writing a Marvel comic. These aren't their original characters, most likely. They're pre-existing characters that have existed for a long time. And what do both of these people have in common, and a bunch of other writers? They have to capture the pre-existing character's voice. How do you practice this? Fan fiction. I play this interesting new instrument called the throat. I don't know how I'm gonna get anything usable out of this. There was lint on my back. Okay, anyway, back to teaching you things because I'm a wonderful and deserving teacher. So if you think about it, fan fiction is really, perfect for this. You get a pre-existing character, like, say, Darth Vader. Darth Vader's really cool. And if you're writing fan fiction about Darth Vader, you have to be able to capture his voice, which is very difficult, by the way. Darth Vader is very hard to write. Not only do you get to experiment with creating your own character and expanding upon a pre-existing world, you also get to practice keeping character voice consistent because this character already exists and people are going to notice if you don't write them correctly. And that's why I think that fan fiction really is a great way to practice writing, better your writing, learn writing skills. Just writing is good practice for writing. So that was a lot of preamble. Basically, I have a fan fiction contest submission due on the 11th. It is currently the 9th, and I have not begun writing it because I was sick. Who am I kidding? Because I didn't feel like it. But today we're actually gonna write it. You and me, we're gonna sit down with this guy here and we're gonna write it. It only has to be 1,000 words, but honestly, 1,000 words is a lot of practice for someone who's just getting into writing. So I do feel like this is a great place to start, especially if you don't have an idea for an original story in your head yet. Like when I first started writing, I didn't really have an idea that was I knew how to write, and the ideas that I did have were a little bit too grand in scope for me to tackle right away. They were just too intimidating, so instead of writing something small, I just wrote nothing. I know it says low battery. We can knock out 1,000 words before the battery dies, right? Now it's a challenge.
We have to knock out 1,000 words worth of writing before this thing's battery dies.
We are currently at 0 words. Now, for inspiration when it comes to fan fiction, I feel like art is a great jumping off point because if there's fan fiction, there's fan art, almost always. So I was scrolling through the internet looking for an idea, and I stumbled upon this image, and it just captivated my imagination. 1, it is so beautifully done. This is some really good art. 2, I have never seen this idea before. It's really fascinating to me. I don't really know what I'm gonna do with this idea now, but I'm thinking that I want to write it from two perspectives. One of my #1 tips when it comes to writing is figure out the end before you begin. There have been way too many stories that they had an awesome idea and they did not know how to land it. Think about Game of Thrones. Think about Lost. Think about other stories that I don't know the names of. You already know how it ends and you're satisfied with that ending. Then all you have to do is figure out how to connect point A and point B, the beginning and the end. I think I talked about this in my how to write a comic book video, which I will link up above. So I'm going to follow that writing advice. So we begin this little fan fiction 1,000-word thingamabob, Darth Vader's death. I'm going to assume Princess Leia is still on the ship because, she's there. Maybe she didn't even send away. Oh, now I want to write a whole story. I want to do more than 1,000 words because think about it. If Darth Vader is killed in that first scene, Leia has not sent away R2 and C-3PO down. They never meet with. Leia could lead her troops in a reinvigorated charge and repel the 501st that's on the ship and, escape. That's another thing. So we're figuring it out as we go along. You just brainstorm. And when it comes to coming up with a concept, I really feel like you can start with something as like really small. What if Darth Vader died? And then you see cause and effect. And this can work in something that's not fan fiction. This can just work in anything. In my comic book, How to Make a Comic Book video that I mentioned before, I used a made up example of a group of people in a plane that crash lands in the middle of the Arctic. You have a story right there. It's very simple. Cause and effect. Stories are cause and effect. There is a plane, it crashes. You don't need to think too far beyond that. Yes, you have to come up with good characters, you have to have good writing skill. But all of that is practice. All of that just sort of happens. You know, you learn those things. A story could be as simple as plane crashes. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked, sorry. I'm trying to I was gonna say something smart about how much wisdom I imparting, that's the word, but I forgot the word. Anyway, we have our beginning. We have the twin perspectives idea. We have the idea of Leia leading the rebellion in this versus Luke. And then we have a big fat question mark. Where does the story end? Maybe I come up with an idea. How about that? Wouldn't that be crazy? Wouldn't that be exciting and mind-blowing and riveting content? Me just coming up with a wonderfully ingenious idea. When I hit a roadblock, I try and just do a simple outline. Now I have an ending idea. I want it to leave off with a little bit of hinting. So let's say it ends with Leia feeling connection to the Force. If we wrap up with her with the lightsaber, Darth Vader gone, she never met Luke because of where this happened on the ship. So R2 never goes down, never looks for Obi-Wan. Luke never becomes involved. Or maybe he gets introduced in the story later. We don't know. I only have 1,000 words. So now that I have a sort of like little 4-act thing, it's just the basis of laying out a story and sort of coming up with it. You can really start very small with fan fiction or with an original story, whatever the case. It's just figuring out the cause and effect pattern and practicing. I've been writing little stories since I was really small. When I was a tiny child, before I could even write, I would sit there and I would tell my grandmother stories and she would write them for me because I couldn't spell yet. So it really comes down to years of practice. It's all about letting yourself be open-minded, letting yourself absorb all sorts of stories, all sorts of mediums, all sorts of information, and then all of that will mesh together inside your mind and become your style. You don't sit down and decide you're going to be a good writer and that this is your style. It just happens. The more that you write, the more that you create, the more that you think. And that's really all that writing is. You're just learning to express your ideas. And some people can do that with art, and some people can do that with their words, like spoken words, which I did not communicate just then because I'm bad with spoken words. And some people do that with writing. So if you're looking for an in for writing and you don't know where to start, it's so daunting. Just don't think about it like, I need to learn how to write and I need to write a book and I need to get that published, and that's, of course you're not going to do it. Sit down, give yourself 1,000 words and write a little something. Write a fan fiction. I'm going to go charge this, and then later I will write a 1,000-word fan fiction. That might happen today or tomorrow. It might happen on the 11th. It'll probably happen on the 11th, the day that it's actually due, and then I'll have to rush edit it, and yeah, that's probably what'll happen. Do as I say, not as I do.